Hello everybody and welcome to Tree Doctors. I'm your host John Passmore, and I cannot think of any better place to start a program about trees than Craighead Forest Park here in Jonesboro. It was established in the 1930s, and there's about every kind of tree you can imagine in this place. And speaking of trees, we're going to catch up with the head tree doctor of Dickey Tree Service, Ed Dickey, and he's going to give you some hints on how to take care of your trees. It's all coming up right after these messages on Tree Doctors.
The tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service can inject a zap back in your tree's sap. Research has showed that ice-damaged trees are stressed, and stressed trees lead to insect and disease attack. Micro tree injection is the answer for your trees. Micro tree injection is a closed system, delivering the exact dose of systemic chemical directly to the sap stream of the tree. Once the problem is identified, the tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service can inject vitamins, minerals, or insecticide directly into the sap stream of your trees. This bypasses the roots and provides immediate results. Micro tree injection has been university tested and field proven for over 35 years. After the tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service treat your trees, you receive a written 1-year guarantee. We won't treat a tree we don't think we can help. Let the tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service put the zap back in your tree's sap. Hello, I'm Ed Dickey, the tree doctor at Dickey Tree Service. I'm coming to you from inside of a tree. We've been getting inside of trees for 35 years. We get to the root of the problem. Give us a call. We know how to save your trees. We put the chemical where it needs to be, inside your tree, taking care of insect and disease problems. We're often imitated, but never duplicated. We've been doing this 35 years. We know what we're doing. Give us a call. We're the tree doctors, Dickey Tree Service.
Well, without any further delay, let's go out into the field with the head tree doctor of Dickey Tree Service, Ed Dickey, as he gives you some hints on how to take care of your trees.
This is a young willow oak tree. This tree is the subject to a lot of confusion. A lot of people call it a pin oak tree. It's actually a willow oak. The trees are elongated like a willow. If you ever get confused on your trees, the state puts out a booklet. Most states do. The state of Arkansas has got one called the Trees of Arkansas. It's quite inexpensive. You can get it through your Park Service or your Forestry Service, and it'll let you know what kind of tree you're dealing with in your yard. It's a good idea to have them. It's inexpensive, about $9 or $10. Breaks the tree down by different times of the year, so no confusion on what kind of tree you got. Good idea to have that, and that way you don't get confused whether you got a willow oak or a pin oak. I'm here with Jason Wilkie. He's the director of the Jonesboro Parks and Recreation, and I want to talk a little bit about to Jason about some of the future plans that Jonesboro have with the trees and the park. Could you tell us a little bit about that, Jason?
Sure, Ed. Our trees are very important to us in the Parks Department and in our parks. They certainly are a beautiful portion of our parks, and they provide shade in areas around playgrounds and things like that. So, and just for the community in itself, the health of the community, trees are very important. So certainly we're making an effort to keep those trees that we have very healthy. In Julian James Park here, we have some very large and old, beautiful trees. In City Cemetery, there's some old historic trees that have, in many cases, been around since before Jonesboro was here. Fairview Park off of near Stadium has some probably 60 to 70 huge, old, beautiful oak trees, and so our first effort is just to preserve those and to keep them beautiful and healthy for as long as we can.
Right, I was glad to be a part of some of it where you had us, our firm, treat some of these here in this park. And you had mentioned to me you had found some interesting things on the internet about future plans for trees.
We sure did. We just finished a master planning process for all of our parks, but specifically Craighead Forest Park. And one of the ideas we had for Craighead Forest Park was that you can purchase genetic descendants of historical trees we found on the internet. And at the entrance, as you go into Craighead Forest Park, there's a large field there. And we wanted to create a forest there in 50 to 75 years it would be a full-fledged forest, but a forest of historical trees where kids coming to the park and visiting the nature center out there could stop and take a walking tour of the forest and learn about the United States history through trees.
That is great. That is great. And having enough foresight to see the groundwork for making that happen, that is super. And I'd just like to say that the mayor and the alderman are doing a great job with letting you do what you can with what limited funds available, and you're doing a great job with it. And I think the city mayor and alderman should be commended, as well as yourself, for the work that's being done on our parks and the stuff that's to be done in the future.
Thank you, Ed. I agree. I mean, a lot of this would not be possible without the approval of the mayor and his commitment to the parks the last 5 or 6 years, and then the council's agreement to improve those things. It's a quality of life issue for Jonesboro, and often we take our trees and our parks for granted, but if they weren't there, we'd really miss them.
It's been about 6 years since a windstorm twisted this old big pecan tree. Started cracking right here. The owner had me put 2 bracing rods through it. There are actually 3, one you can't see that's going through this side. Each one of these hold 50,000 pounds. They're 1-inch bracing rods, drilled all the way through the tree. And now, like I said, that's been better than 6 years ago. The tree's still doing fine, and he has a big pecan crop every year. So don't let the Mother Nature destroy one of your trees. Take a look at it. It's got a weak crotch in it. Give us a call. We can fix it. I'm here at the home of Nola Lackey in Jonesboro, and a little over a year ago she had called me. She was having some problems out of these pine trees. They had pine bark beetle. And Nola, why don't you tell us a little bit about what was going on back then?
Well, the pine trees were looking like they were dying. They were spewing at the bottom, and just like sap or something coming up all the way around them. And so I knew nothing to do but to call you, because I have had them for like 60 years, and I wanted to save them because my daddy gave them to me when I moved here, and I've been here 60 years.
Oh yeah, so they are your family tree.
Definitely.
And do you think the trees look a lot better now?
They look great. They really look great. Even though you have to spray them once a month, well, once you get something done for them, then you can continue to help prevent it again.
Exactly right. A little bit of preventive maintenance goes a long way. After we injected these trees, I had instructed Nola how to spray a mild trunk application of insecticide on it to keep it from being invaded again, and she's done that, and it's been well over a year, and the trees are looking good.
Yes, sir. And during the winter, I lost no limb at all. None of them broke. They were very strong. And before, I was losing a lot of limbs when we had an ice storm.
Well, I want to thank you for talking to me about your pine trees, and we'll keep eye on them. We might talk about them again here in a year or two.
Thank you, and thanks for everything else.
You know, out in California, they got a tree, I think it's called a General Sherman. You can actually drive a car through a big old tree. Well, here in Arkansas, we got one a little different. You can actually walk through this tree. You know, you don't see these every day, but it's a pretty cool tree. And trees still doing all right. You know, Arkansas's got some great trees, some big trees. Let's take care of those trees. That's what we do. We give new life to old trees. I'm here in Wynn with Beverly Burnett, and we're looking at a big, nice sycamore tree. And a few months ago, we treated this tree, and she was at the point at that time about thinking about cutting this down, and I'll let Beverly tell you a little bit about this sycamore tree.
Well, this tree was on the original property when we bought it. We were so thrilled to have a tree. And even though those leaves are huge and they never disintegrate, it seems like, but this has been a wonderful tree through the years. My children we built a tree house here, and they had that. But I've always loved this tree. But lightning has struck it, it's caused more trouble, and one time all the leaves fell off, and I thought it was dying, I thought it was dead. But thank goodness you came along and saved it. So anyway, it's a beautiful tree now, look at it. How old would you say it is?
I think it's better than 100 years old, and we can actually thank Joe Dooley. I think he's your nephew.
That's right.
Because he was the one who told me to see about this tree, and I think the proof's in the pudding there that the tree came back great.
It did. It did.
How long do you remember it being that large, Beverly?
Oh, it's been that size the whole time. It's been that size. It has been a huge tree.
And you lived here for how long?
48 years.
Okay, so that shows you it's right at 100 or better. A big old sycamore tree. Sycamore trees can be a good tree. A little bit of care goes a long way. Well, thank you, Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Dickey.
This is a big old mimosa tree. In fact, there are two of them here. One right behind me here. And a few years ago, we treated these trees. The mimosa wilt was killing out a lot of the mimosa trees in this area, and we treated these and managed to save them, and they're doing great today. If you know much about mimosa trees, they're a little bit messy. They're a flowering tree, but with a little bit of care, you can have a good shade tree, and it'd be a very viable tree because they grow quick, and you don't normally see them this big. But a little bit of care, you can keep them that big. They'll grow a long time and be a good tree for you. And I'm tickled to be able to say we saved these two here. I'm here with Jay Freeman and Nola Lackey in the backyard, in a beautiful shaded yard. This great trees over the house. I treated here a little over a year ago. And you remember, Jay, what was going on with this tree when y'all called me about it?
Well, the first thing we noticed, it was bleeding over on one of the roots over here. Sap was coming out. And we didn't know what to do about it, so eventually we called you. And come to find out you did know what to do about it. You came out and treated it with the application around all the roots, and then advised us to fertilize it and spray it every 30 days with your recommended spray, which we've done, and it looks like it's done its job.
Right, and the tree looks good. I mean, it's a thick shade. You can't even see up through it. And Miss Lackey, what do you think about the tree? Now, you got a little something to tell about the tree. What's the history of this tree?
Well, I'm very proud of it right now because, again, this was given to me by my dad 60 years ago when I bought the house and moved here. It was not very tall, maybe 3 to 4 inches when he gave it to me, and I set it out. And to me, it's well, the grandest tree that I've ever had. And the treatment that you did was great. I'd advise anybody that's having any trouble with their trees to call you because I have no limbs falling, no leaves falling. Everything is green and great and beautiful. Real proud of it.
Well, I thank you, and part of it had to do with that follow-up that you did, the instructions I gave you, and you followed that well, and the tree kind of speaks for itself, doesn't it?
It sure does. We do it every month, just like you say, and with the insecticide that you told us to use.
All right, I want to thank you for taking time to talk about the tree, and you too, Jay. And this tree, I think, is going to be around for a long time, and it's truly y'all's family tree.
Definitely. That's all I've got now is my trees.
I want to talk a little bit about dogwood tree. We haven't said too much on our programs about dogwood trees. And Jay, tell me a little bit about this dogwood and this other one here.
Well, about 10 years ago, her and another lady wanted some dogwood trees. So I took them on a little dogwood tree hunt trip.
Okay.
I believe we dug up 5, 6, 7 trees. These trees here are about 10 years old. They were about 3 foot high when we got them. So you put these two out. How many do you put out? Two trees. And in 10 years, they have grown from nothing to here to shade what's 25 foot across and 20 foot high.
They're pretty big trees. And
the blooms on them are magnificent.
Right. About years ago, they got in a little bit of trouble. That's when I treated them. Is that right, Nola?
Yes, it is. And they needed it, and needed it bad, because at that time, I could just walk under them and mow the lawn. Now then, I've got to crawl under them because the leaves have grown so all around, so big and everything, and there are a whole bunch of new leaves and everything. It's fantastic.
So you're glad you treated them?
I'm glad I did it.
All right, the old way of cutting off branches, where this branch was cut off years ago, they cut a little too close to the tree. It was widely thought to cut right against the tree. That's not necessarily correct. Research has showed that if you leave just a little bit, 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch protruding out from the trunk of the tree, that it will close over 3 to 5 times faster. What that does, that allows the tree to close over before these boring insects are allowed to invade the cambium, and it stops the rot. You can see up here where the cut was irregular and it's having problems growing over right up here. If this cut had been made out from the tree just a little ways, a 1/2 inch or so, it would have already been closed over, even though it was several years ago when that was cut off. So if you'll just use just a little bit of common sense when you make your final cut, take them extra few seconds, it will go a long way in aiding to recovery of your tree from whatever actions you take when you cut it off. You can see, even though these cuts here were made about the same time as the cuts on the other side of the tree, they were smaller, they've already closed over. They left a little bit of an extended area coming out from the trunk, and the tree quickly closed over and sealed itself off. You can see up above me one that's in the process of closing over now. There's just a small hole left in the center. It won't be long till that's completely sealed off. Keeping the invasive insects out and letting the tree stop rotting process and just continue on to be a good healthy tree. So remember that. Leave a little bit of a area extended out from the trunk when you make that final cut. Makes a big difference. There's several different ways we can treat a tree's problem. We can inject it systemically through the trunk. We can spray it with our sprayer, or we can inject it through the ground and let the roots pick it up, or a combination of all three. We do that on several problems, depends on what else you treat. But we can handle it, whatever the case may be. So if you got a problem with your tree, we can diagnose it and we can fix it.
Daddy phoned to tell us that old tree might have to come down. The one I had the tree house in and chased my wife around. He said a neighbor showed him where it was busting at the trunk. And if the snow got heavy, it could crack down to the stump. We got to save our family tree. It's such a big part of our history. What a nostalgic sight to see. We got to save our family tree. Grandpa said they planted it when he was just 8 years old. His mama kept the clods broke up while his daddy dug the hole. I phoned up a friend of mine that lives in our hometown. He said he knew a tree doctor didn't like to cut trees down. The man went out and checked our tree and bolted it back together. He said it would last a lifetime, no matter what the weather. We got to save our family tree. It's such a big part of our history. What a nostalgic sight to see. We got to save our family tree. Yes, we got to save our family tree.
You know, sometimes we don't pay attention to the jewel on the crown of the Jonesboro Park System. That's Craighead Forest. If you get a chance, why don't you come out and drive around and take a look at all these beautiful trees we have here. And we'll be back with more of the show with Ed Dickey, the head tree doctor of Dickey Tree Service, right after this message.
It's not hard to see what killed these trees. It was boreworms. The borer is a hard insect to control, virtually untouched with spraying and other applications. But with systemic injection, when the borer eats the tree, the borer dies. Trees are dying all over, but we've got the cure. We give a 1-year guarantee when we treat your trees for the borers. We've been doing this 35 years and we know what we're doing. Give us a call. We're the Tree Doctors, Dickey Tree Service, in your yellow pages under trees. The Tree Doctors at Dickey Tree Service can inject a zap back in your tree's sap. Research has showed that ice-damaged trees are stressed, and stressed trees lead to insect and disease attack. Micro tree injection is the answer for your trees. Micro tree injection is a closed system, delivering the exact dose of systemic chemical directly to the sap stream of the tree. Once the problem is identified, the Tree Doctors at Dickey Tree Service can inject vitamins, minerals, or insecticide directly into the sap stream of your trees. This bypasses the roots and provides immediate results. Micro tree injection has been university tested and field proven for over 35 years. After the Tree Doctors at Dickey Tree Service treats your trees, you receive a written 1-year guarantee. We won't treat a tree we don't think we can help. Let the Tree Doctors at Dickey Tree Service put the zap back in your tree's sap.
Trees, that's what this program's all about. We're here at Craighead Forest, and we're going to be chasing Ed Dickey. He's out in the field. We'll see what he has to say about taking care of your trees.
Here's a little tip for you. I was up in Drasco, Arkansas, treating some trees, and there was a man up there named Mr. West. His granddad was, his father was there, and he reminded me of the old way of putting ashes around your fruit trees. And this, with the cost of fuel and fuel oil and gas going up this winter, there are going to be more and more people burning wood. And that wood ash that you get in your fireplace or your stove, if you'll just put it around your fruit tree, like this plum tree here, it does a couple of things. The nutrients that was in the wood when the wood burnt still remain. So the tree's going to get the benefit from the nutrient, and the ash deters the borers. The tree roots actually picks up some of that, and it cuts down on the amount of borer problem going in your fruit tree. So it helps with your insect problem. Years ago, they used to mix this ash with water and a little buttermilk and let it culture overnight. And, they'd paint the trunks of the tree up about 4.5 foot high, incorporating some ash into the whitewash. A lot of people remember them whitewashing the tree. It had some ash in it also. Slack lime was also used with the ash. So if you want to get good fruit on your tree and get a big bang for your buck on burning that wood, you know, you can get you some good plums that way. Just a little bit of ash goes a long way. You know, in search of some of our larger, bigger trees, it's led us to the, of course, one of the main places of where cities start, and here would be where the heart of Jonesboro is, the cemetery here, the original city cemetery. And here with me is Jason Wilkie. That's he's the director of the Parks and Recreation. A lot of people don't realize that part of his job also entails the taking care of the grounds on the cemetery as well as the city parks. And Jason, tell us a little bit about these old historic trees here.
Well, these trees may be over 100 years old here, and then probably as old as the cemetery. And as we looked around at some of the monuments here, I mean, you're looking at monuments that are late 1800s to early 1900s. That the cemetery's been here, and many of these trees have been here. If you look at this tree here, most likely this tree was a sapling when those monuments were put in, and now it's grown up and provided shade, and just is a beautiful addition to some of these cemeteries, these large trees.
Oh, indeed it is, and the city has, over the years, has took care of it, and our forefathers from this community had foresight to do some of this and take care of this, and that's one of the themes of our program, is the family tree type deal. And of course, needless to say, this is city trees. These are city's family trees, and you've got a big task on your shoulders taking care of them. You've been the director how long?
Been the director just over 2 years as the interim and full-time director. Been full director for about 1.5 years. And I need to mention that we had talked about our master plans for the parks and trees in the parks, but cemeteries are also green spaces in communities and very important both historically, and culturally as well as environmentally for our community. And we own and maintain 4 parks. The city does, 4 cemeteries, and our plan is to create centers of green space, adding more trees and places where people may come to reflect, perhaps even walk. In certain areas of Jonesboro, the driveways in the cemeteries can be great places for low recreation, that maintains the respect for the cemetery. And so we're looking at ways that we can improve the green spaces and create more places for people to actually enjoy green space in Jonesboro.
I think that's marvelous, and you got some great trees here to work with, and I know you want to preserve them. And I just want to thank you for taking a minute to talking to our viewers about them.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We're here at another big oak tree that got damaged during construction. These houses was recently constructed, and you can see where they hit it a few times and did quite a bit of damage here on the bark area. Also, you can see the borehole right here where the boars have already had a place to get in. It won't be long till this tree be going downhill. If the contractor just watch a little bit during construction, treat for that, you can actually see the holes here on the trunk area where it's bleeding. This has been done less than a year. The insect's already having a heyday. This tree won't last long like it is. It'll keep pulling it down and get worse. You can see here a major cut in the root structure here at the bottom. Just a complete oversight by the contractor, and just a little extra precaution and care would have went a long way in saving this old, valuable, beautiful tree. So kind of watch it when you're doing construction, and watch your contractor. Talk to him about it if you're having construction done. See what you can do and they can do to make your tree sustain an environment that makes it more copacetic to live, and not crowd its roots and cut it and damage it. You'll be glad you did in the long run. We all need a shady spot to go every once in a while, get our thoughts together. These people here dedicated this granite bench underneath these great shade trees just so people can enjoy their shady spot. They're long gone, but their memory remains, and to that, these would be their family trees that they've adopted around this memorial that they put up here. Maybe you've got a favorite spot or a favorite tree or a large tree that you want to let us know about. Just contact the station, let us know, or my website, or call the office. We'll be glad to take a look at what you've got to offer, and so we might use it on a future presentation of our family tree program, because that's what this show's about. It's about trees, and you can't be about trees if you're not about people, and they kind of both go hand in hand. So if you got an unusual tree, a story about a tree, something we might be interested in, give us a try. We might use it.
I want to thank you so much for being a part of our program today. And you can catch us every Saturday and every Sunday at 6 o'clock in the morning right here on KAIT. If you got any questions for Ed Dickey, log on to www.dickeytree.com or give him a call, and he'll be glad to answer the questions for you. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time on Tree Doctors.